Okay, I'd like to call to order the November 18th, 2020 regular session Madison Fire District meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Gautner.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Vest.
Here.
Mr. Wayman.
Here.
If we could, we're going to take a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the October 21st, 2020 minutes. Do we have a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I so move to approve the October 21st, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Mr.
I
Gautner?
will second. Mr. Vest.
Mr. Vest, second.
Yes.
Is there a discussion on those? Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gautner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
I saw his mouth move. Looked like it was a
He's
yes.
He's muted.
Yeah.
Abstain.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, one question while we're on the minutes.
Yep, Mr.
We had a special meeting on the 28th of October. We don't have minutes for that, Nyla?
No, not tonight.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to the bills and payroll from October. Bills, $65,608.93. Payroll, $137,694.13, which was a total of $203,303.06. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Anderson, second.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wayman, discussion?
That was a 3-month payroll.
Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gautner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to the October 2020 financial report. Joanne?
Sure, it's the fund summary report that we're reading off of. And it's, we started the month of October with $5,029,956.34. Our month-to-date revenue was $153,883.29. Our year-to-date revenue was $4,382,585.89. Our month-to-date expenditures again was $203,303.06. Our year-to-date expenditures is $2,612,394.34. So we're starting October with $4,980,536.57. You'll notice that there was a negative in the revenue under the earned benefits, and that's because of the investments. It was down last month. You know, they'll fluctuate. They'll probably come back up this month. I already called the investment guy. On there.
You answered my question on that one.
Okay, yeah, I called him on it.
Okay, thank you.
On there. You also, the email I sent out to about the BWC dividends we'll be getting next month of $105,845 from BWC on there. And then next month also is my big payout for payroll for longevity and holiday pay on there. And then on December 1st, I will be all day in the UAN year-end webinar training on there. And then Chief, I have a bunch of resolutions. As we get to them, I'll explain those going forward. And then the Chief and I will talk about the budget over in his report.
Okay. Any questions for Joanne?
Mr. Chairman,
Chief?
do we not have we have the bond payment in December? Did I miss that?
Actually, That just came in now. So that'll be in the transfer. I did the check for tomorrow because it's due December 1st.
Okay, so that's $430,000, just so everybody knows.
$422,987.87.
Thank you. No questions right now for Joanne?
No.
Okay. Okay. Anything from the public?
Mr. Chairman, I have not received anything.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to legal counsel. Mrs. Dane.
Hello, everyone. So you'll see, obviously, that there's a number of resolutions before you tonight. We'll get to each of those when the time comes. The only other update I have is we did send by certified mail the letter to Mr. Gates. I did have a conversation upon his receipt of that letter. There seems to be no issue with termination of the contract. I was contacted and had a discussion with Joanne earlier about his compensation, and it's my understanding that that has also been taken care of and sent to him. So no further issues on that point. And I did, after our special meeting, go ahead and separate Madison Village and Madison Township for the acceptance of the CARES Act fund, and those have been uploaded, I believe, to either the board folder or provided to NYLA. So that's wrapped up as well.
Thank you for that.
Welcome.
Any questions right now for Stacy? No? Okay. Let's go on to committee reports. Chief, got anything?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Well, some more good news coming out of Medical Mutual. We just got an email today that they are discounting December's rate for our medical insurance by 30%. I also believe I forwarded to the board, CBIZ went back to Medical Mutual to try to renegotiate and got it down a few more points to, I think it was 3.8. I think that we have a resolution today to try to adopt that. There didn't seem to be any objection at that increase from the union to keep what they had. And I think that I'm not really sure. You know, they say a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, and I think we got one this year. So the healthcare stuff is all taken care of and will be in resolutions later.
Okay. All righty. We'll move on. No old business. We'll move on to the new business, and it looks like a bunch of resolutions. I don't know if Joanne wants to take that or Stacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could start with them since these ones are the finance ones. This is a resolution 20-33 is a resolution authorizing the chief fiscal officer to amend the certificate of estimated resources for the year 2020 and declaring an emergency. And the reason I have to amend this is because, for one, in our general fund, I tried to put the reasons was because of the BWC refund we have coming in December, and also the sale of the trucks. So I increased our other resources by those amounts. And then I added the coronavirus relief fund so we can justify and track the village and township money that, you know, the reimbursement that they're going to be reimbursing us as we make the purchases.
Okay. Do we have a motion for 2033?
You have that motion, Mr. Chairman. This is Vest.
Do we have a second?
Second from Lee.
Mr. Lee? Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Gontner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay. Want to keep going, Joanne?
Sure. Next one is resolution 20-34 is a resolution authorizing the fiscal officer of the Madison Fire District to reallocate and reappropriate the funds from the general fund 1000 specifically to contingency fund 1000-930-930-00 to the general funds account sick leave 1022-100-1005. That's to cover for the employees that we've had off on sick leave on there. The next one is our health savings is 1022-229-25. And that was due to Mr. Holocaust leaving and us having to hire a new person for him. Our workers' comp is 1022-230-00. And that's when we have to do the true up. And I mean, we actually got all the money back from it, but I had to reappropriate that one. Garbage was 1120-22-00. I think that, Chief, that was a little bit of an increase in the fees, wasn't what caused that one to go up a little bit?
Yes, actually, the way the pickup schedule was, we got dinged a couple of times because apparently if the lid doesn't close, like completely, they charge you $150. And after 2 occurrences, we decided to modify that agreement so they picked it up weekly instead of every other week because it was far less expensive than having overage.
On there. The next one is the advertising 1120-345-000, and that's for the ads that we've had to put in the newspaper for the construction and the meeting notices changes. Our tax collection fee is 1220-31400. That one we weren't off as bad as we were last year, but that's the cost of them collecting our property taxes. Vehicle maintenance 1220-323-7100. Chief, I bumped that up to 15,000 on there.
Yeah, that's okay, and we're actually not going to hit that mark because of the delay in working on one of the fire engines.
On there. PPE is the capital PPE was 1,767,744 on that, and that's the one I bumped up that you said to bump up another 5,000 for in case we need stuff for COVID and everything. Is that it?
Yeah, that's for COVID. We're going to try to get some grants to reimburse us, but
yeah,
we didn't expect to buy masks.
And then I have the fire equipment 1,220-400-490 and declaring an emergency.
Okay. And this one was 2032, correct?
34.
2034.
2034?
Yep.
Yep.
There it is.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Nina.
for those of you who got physical folders, there were changes made to the resolution numbers. So you'll have to add 2 to each of them because we had to insert some resolutions. I'm sorry for the confusion. It was a late change.
Thank you, Nyla.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion for 2034?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion on 20-34.
Mr. Anderson, have a second.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wayman, discussion? Roll call.
Also, so you just know that we were under the 75,000 that you allowed us for the contingency.
Right.
So you see we were still 10,000 under.
Right.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner.
Yes.
Ready for the next one?
Sure.
Resolution 20-35 is a resolution authorizing the physical officer of the Madison Fire District to transfer funds from the general fund 1,000 to the general non-note retirement fund 3101 and declaring an emergency. And this is for our bond that's due December 1st of $422,987.87.
Okay. Do we have a motion for
We have
20?
that motion. Vest here.
Mr. Vest, a second.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gauntner, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ready for next?
Next.
This is resolution 20-36 is a resolution approving and amending the permanent appropriations for current expenses or other expenditures for the Madison Fire District, Lake County, Ohio during the period ending December 31st, 2020. And as I noted on it when I sent it out, is we changed it for our wages and benefits. We changed that one due to the 2 full-timer sickness and the hiring of the full-time in the HSA and the workers' comp. We increased the other expenditures in the general fund due to the advertising, tax collection, garbage, fire equipment, and vehicle maintenance. That was all the stuff from the contingency plan fund that we transferred up to those. And the PP was because, you know, how the chief requested that. I added the coronavirus one to cover the expenditures that the township and county or township and village is giving us. So that's what that 83,166 is for. And then under the EMS, we increased it due to COVID-19 and a life pack purchase.
Very good. Do we have a motion for 2036?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt resolution 20-36.
Mr. Wayman, a second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Anderson, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gottner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is resolution 20-37 is a resolution requesting the county auditor to make advance payments of taxes for the year 2021. I just wanted to make sure that we got this in time so we can get this. You know, I figured we'd still have a meeting in December, but I want to be ahead of schedule. So we get it, they give us the advance like in February. We have to send this to the county.
Do we have a motion for 20-37?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
I think I heard of Mr. Gottner first and Mr. Vest second.
I think it's Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee second. Okay.
Yes.
He's hiding behind that tree. Sorry. All right, thank you. A discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gottner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman.
Yes.
Now we'll turn it to Stacy, I think, or Todd.
Okay, Mrs. Dame, you're up.
Okay, it's my understanding that the Health Insurance Committee has recommended that the board adopt the insurance plan that was presented by Medical Mutual. So this resolution 20-38 would be a resolution authorizing the district insurance plan as recommended for the upcoming insurance year and authorizing payments for said plan. Exhibit A that's referenced in this resolution would be that plan summary that was provided by the chief earlier to the board.
Do we have a motion for 20-38?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, on 20-38.
Mr. Anderson, second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Wayman, discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Vest.
Thank you. Chief, or Joanne, I guess, what is the increase?
The increase is 3.78%.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just say, I appreciate the board working with the full-time union and through collective bargaining. I think we've made some changes, and I think that 3.78% increase kind of shows that everybody's working together. So I also want to acknowledge the full-time staff and all the full-time staff for helping support this.
Thank you. Okay. We have roll call?
Roll call?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gottner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Okay, the next resolution would be resolution number 20-39. This would be a resolution approving and accepting the Coronavirus Relief Fund subrecipient agreement between the Board of Madison Township Trustees and the Madison Fire District. And just for clarification purposes, at our special meeting, we had already been presented with the subrecipient agreement from Madison Village and had approved that in the resolution that we approved at that meeting. So since we didn't have the one from the township yet, they approved it at a subsequent meeting, presented it to us. It's basically in the same terms. It just has the purchases that we were making with the township funds. And so this adopts that subrecipient agreement.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for 20-39?
You have that motion, Mrs. Vest?
Wait.
I heard of Mr. Vest and,
Yes. Mr. Lee?
and Mr. Lee second. Thank you. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Gontner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
yes,
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 20-40. This is the resolution authorizing the publication and notice of a request for qualification from architectural engineering firms for architectural and engineering services for the demolition and renovation of the restroom shower room and construction of a new sleep dormitory addition at the Madison Fire District Fire Station 2, located at 1743 Hubbard Road, Madison, Ohio. In this resolution, it references an Exhibit A, which is the request for qualifications, project scope of services, which was uploaded to the board folder and will be attached to this resolution. And also Exhibit B, which is the actual notice of request for qualifications that will be published in the paper. I want to thank Trustee Gontner for his hard work and supplying this information. He spent a lot of time preparing drafts of these for me to review, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Gontner for that. But I reviewed it and these are sufficient, and this would allow us to move forward with that Station 2 project if the board so wants to move in that direction.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for 20-40?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion for 20-40.
Mr. Anderson, do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wayman, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just the only thing, Chief, I wanted to make sure I sent you an email this afternoon. That legal ad, Nyla needs to get into the News Herald probably tomorrow because it's due to be published on Sunday. And it also needs to go on the Fire District website.
I will make sure that it goes on the district website, and Joanne, you'll make sure it gets in the legal ad.
Okay.
She's muted. You're muted, Joanne.
We
I
got this.
haven't seen anything on it, so.
I do have it. I received it today and I will forward it to you.
We'll get that taken care of.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes,
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mrs. Dane.
just one other point on that. If there is any specific firms or architectural, companies or anything that the board specifically wants to send the request for qualifications or proposals to, we can do that as well. So just make sure that Nyla or Joanne are aware of those entities.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yep.
Nyla, I will send you the name of at least 3 firms and contact people that I think we should at least send a request for qualifications out to. They're all local Lake County architectural engineering firms that I think might be interested in submitting the qualifications for this. So I'll get that to you in the next day.
We'll make sure those go out to those people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I did have just one more item because I wanted everyone to be aware, because since this is a fluid board and we don't know who's going to be on in the future, but with those subrecipient agreements, When the fire district purchases that equipment, there is an obligation in there should such time that we ever want to dispose of or get rid of or stop using that equipment, that we would have to approach either the village or the township before we would do anything like that. And we have to maintain our records regarding those purchases as well. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the chief's report. Chief?
Thank you, sir. This month we want to recognize firefighter Brandon Davis and Mike Brewer. They both completed their first year. Mr. Brewer is doing it first year, second time around, so we're glad to have Mike back. The budget, again, so far we're pretty much on point. We had to make some modifications to appropriations because there were several unexpected things that happened. Our EMS volume, our EMS revenue is still down about 1% from what was projected. It's been kind of dynamic throughout the year. We're currently down about 100 EMS runs. So being down that 1%, it's a bad best. Salaries sometimes still was one of those issues, as Joanne addressed. From a staffing standpoint, we've had some overtime. One of the things that I did is this month in the board folder, if you take a look, we put a copy of our current completed schedule for the upcoming 28-day period. And one of the reasons I did that, we'll talk about here in a little bit, but staffing is growing larger and larger as an issue, not due to COVID. We just took the resignation of one of our part-time firefighters. We just had two of our part-time firefighters, one of them which works considerable hours, both accept a position at another fire department full-time. And unfortunately, we're not getting the applications. It's an extremely competitive market. So the staffing is going to continue to be a challenge in the future. Call volumes, I want to commend the guys on C shift, which happens to be today. Captain Sopko, Jesse Sopko, myself. I'm trying to think of who else came in. But that storm put a stress on us amongst everything else. And the guys really stepped up and did a good job. I think we had between 35 and 40 calls in about a 4 or 5 hour period. And the tough part is many of those calls involved wires down, and in some cases it wasn't something that we can leave. So again, when you work with a department that's got some minimal staff, having to have somebody sit and babysit wires becomes challenging, but those guys got it done. So I commend everybody that was a part of that. Fire inspections are ongoing. Vehicles, we'll discuss that a little bit when we talk about the budget. We did cancel the officers meeting for October. We did have one in November and discuss some of the staffing things. I'm going to talk to you here as we move forward. So just so that the board is updated, COVID has become real. Just today, this afternoon, actually after I talked to you, Ms. Dame, I received email and phone call of 15 more positive cases in Madison. We currently have 2 skilled nursing facilities with outbreaks, and we just had another one who now has positive in their facility. So I anticipate those numbers to grow. Those skilled nursing facilities are tough places with those types of patients, and they're pretty vulnerable. We did have 2 positive cases on the department. Thankfully, one of them has gone through the CDC guidelines, has met the criteria to return to work. The other one isn't due back until I believe it is the 22nd, provided his symptoms clear and he's afebrile. Unfortunately, this is the problem that we have. Both of those people contracted it through contact tracing. We know that they were outside sources. It wasn't job related. They both got it through friends outside of the department. Unfortunately, they exposed 8 additional people here at the fire department through unprotected contact because we unknowingly, we weren't aware that they had it. So we didn't make it through. I was hoping we'd make it through unscathed, and we did not. But fortunately, everybody's doing well. So the COVID thing is real. I kind of anticipate us being purple tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. Our PPE, and Joanne mentioned, we had to make some modifications. We did just spend about $4,000, well, yeah, about $3,500 on additional PPE. Through this whole COVID pandemic, our burn rate has been relatively low, and burn rate means how much of that stuff we have to throw away. In the last week, we have probably burned out more than we did in the previous 8 months. We just purchased an additional 1,000 N95 masks. We purchased 300 isolation gowns. We still have the goggles. The sprayers that we bought early on we're still using. We still got sanitizing agent in there so that the stations and the vehicles are clean. We did reach out to the village, and I sent another letter to Mr. Bailey. Apparently there was some CARES money that they had that was still available. So I did make a request to the village for the purchase of an additional 1,000 N95 masks, 500 isolation gowns, and then we have a sanitizing agent called ThoroughWorks, which we use, and I asked for an additional 2 cases of that, which was about $3,600, $3,660, I believe it was. The challenge here, just so you guys know, is one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to be hoarders, but I guess the big question right now is how much do we need? You know, is 1,000 N95 masks going to be enough? Is 2,000 enough? I've seen some information from my Cleveland connections that they're anticipating the cases will quadruple by Christmas. So if that's the case, you know, 2,000 masks may not even be enough. But we're in good shape as far as the PPE goes. If, you know, I don't know whether the village folks are at liberty to discuss, but I was relatively reassured by Dwayne that he thought there'd be no issue. So that adds to our cachet of protective equipment. Yes.
They were approved this evening.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So that's going to help bolster up some of that PPE even more, which I think we're in a really good spot. But again, you know, who knows where this whole thing's going to go. As I mentioned before, I accepted a letter of resignation from one of our part-time firefighters. The 2 part-time firefighters had accepted employment in another city. And then so the board is aware, I did accept a letter from firefighter Pat Davis. He will be resigning his position with Madison Fire on January 4th. And I think, Ms. Dame, did you not suggest we got a motion to accept his letter of resignation from the board?
Yes, the board is the one who has authority to accept that resignation and then also hire any other firefighters.
I would be happy to read that letter to the board if the board would like to hear that. It just says to Chief Todd Baker and all members of the Madison Fire Board, it is with great reluctance that I tender my resignation after 27.5 years of service with the Madison Fire District. The effective date of my resignation is January 4th, 2021. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve the community and to serve with my fellow firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs. This resignation comes only because of the injury I sustained in the line of duty in March of 2020. This injury has changed my life as well as my wife's. The injury prohibited me from returning to a career that I love. I wish I didn't have to make this difficult decision. Sincerely, firefighter paramedic Pat Davis.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to accept the resignation of firefighter Pat Davis with great regret.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lee, second. Roll call.
Mr. Vest,
Yes.
Mr. Wayman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, and I will pass that on to firefighter Davis. I also spoke with Ms. Dame about the contract requirements for the termination of his employment, and we will sit down and come to terms with everything that we need to do to close out his employment with Madison Fire. With that said, we're going to review the process to begin to replace firefighter Davis. We're going to try to look for we're going to look for the intent and interest within the department. and have discussion with the officers. And our goal is going to be to try to move quickly if we can to replace that spot, because again, staffing right now is one of the big challenges. Along the same lines of staffing, if you look through the board folder under the chief's folder, one of the things that we looked at as officers, and one of the challenges, I guess, that we have is we currently have 0 applications for part-time firefighters. If you take a look at the calendar as it was completed, I think Captain Sopko forwarded that to me 3 days ago. We are continuing to grow with more and more vacancies. And the concerning part to those of us that have been here historically is the holiday season is typically where the calendar packs full and people don't get hours because everybody likes a little extra Christmas cash. We are at the point where I would venture to guess that 60 to 70% of the days have shifts that are open. So one of the things that we had discussed in our officers meeting is, we're at a crossroads here. We can do nothing and continue to ride the tide, where one day we have 8 people on and the next day we have 5 people, and one of which is getting overtime. From an operational standpoint, the inconsistency makes it challenging. I'm not asking for anything tonight other than to have the board take a look at the staffing options, because one of the things that we did, the officer group did, is we looked at what our model would look like if we added additional full-time people. And I understand full-time people come at a greater cost, but inconsistency has a cost too. So what we tried to do was essentially shift dollars in the budget. So we maybe don't have the part-time staffing that we normally would have, and we shift some of those dollars to full-time staffing. In the last year, we've watched several outstanding young men and women who walk away and go elsewhere, being shorter and shorter in staff. So if you get a chance to take a look at it, please do so. If you have some questions, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. We looked at the replacement of just Firefighter Davis, and then went from Firefighter Davis +1, +2, and +3. We also looked at it for a period of 4 years. So what does it look like, not just today, what does it look like 4 years from now? How can we do it to be essentially budget neutral, so we're not spending more dollars, we're keeping our costs controlled, but adding consistency in the staffing, which makes it much easier to operate a fire department. So if you get a chance and can take a look at that, that will probably be discussion moving forward. And the nice part is, again, because it's budget neutral, it really doesn't impact what we're proposing for our 2021 budget. One of the other things that came forward before I get to the budget was, I know the board passed resolutions to accept the sub-recipient agreements on, behalf of both township and village. Would it please the board, or if the board would anybody be interested in a motion perhaps authorizing Mr. Adams to be the sole signer to said agreements? And I don't know, Ms. Dame, whether we can do that, as opposed to trying to get all 6 of you and Ms. Dame to sign sub-recipient agreements.
I think we talked about this before, Todd. I don't see any requirement that makes it necessary for the whole board. The board usually has the chairman execute its documents on its behalf. And that's what I indicated when we were talking about signing the Madison Village one. And I think the same would hold true, unless the trustees or, Gary Pascalone are requiring the signature of all members of the board. But I think it's sufficient that the chairman would sign.
There was a request from the village administrator to indoctrinate through a motion something that validated that Mr. Adams had the authority. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you feel it's yay or nay, it's entirely up to the board.
I believe that it's in the resolution that we passed in our last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's also in the resolution we did tonight.
Yeah,
Correct.
So I think if Dwayne wants a copy of that resolution, we can send him a certified copy of the resolution over.
Perfect.
Yep. I certainly don't mind putting Jay on the hook.
The only other thing that I have to bring for you, well, two things. One, I want to, in front of my bosses, I want to compliment the guys and gals that are working here. I think over the last several months, and specifically the last month, as the COVID thing has pressed on, I want to let you know what a good job these guys are doing. We've stepped up some of the restrictions in the station. We're now to a point where in congregate areas of the fire stations, we're requiring them to wear masks. They continue to respond. I know it sounds crazy, but the wearing a mask and some of the things that we do just becomes a cumbersome process. And I wanted to commend them to you guys because I think they're doing an outstanding job. And then the last thing is, as Joanne mentioned, in the folder is a proposed budget for 2021. Little changes, actually, it's nice to have multiple eyes on it because Joanne caught two little fixes that we need to make. One being the county tax collection fee, which seems to be a moving target. So we'll just try to figure out what the budget for it this year, because it's more this year than last year. And the other big things that are in there is we're obviously going to have to make a little adjustment to our HSA again, because we'll be losing one and hiring one, which puts us in the same boat that we were in a year ago. But other than that, it's my hope that we can get some kind of budget approved in December so that we go into 2021 with, I know we have till March or whatever that is, but I think it's good practice for us to have a budget in place January 1st so that we're not retrospectively guessing at what we should or shouldn't have been doing the first 3 months. So I hope that we'll have that finalized. There's a couple tweaks that will be made, and I'll be happy to send out tweaks that, the tweaks that we made and outline that via email so that the board has some time to look at it and is comfortable with what we're proposing. The big thing for next year is a squad. There's about $225,000 budgeted for vehicles for capital. So that will be something that we're looking at doing just to kind of keep that fleet up. We still have a couple old clunkers that are left. So now we begin to get into a rotation where we replace them. Other than that, I have nothing else. I'm tired and going to cut it short.
So last year we did do the permanent appropriations in December. So when we set this year's budget, we did it made them permanent on there. And like you said, the health savings plan, and we have 50,000, and we're going to change it to 54. And the tax collection, we actually had 12,500, and we're changing that to 46,000. Is one of the tweaks we're doing on there.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Chief?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman, please.
Mr. Vest.
Yes, first off is, so when do you expect to have that budget finals for review?
I'm hoping by the end of next week.
Okay, because I'd like to have a little time to look at it as opposed to point blank here. Let's see here. Do you have a census for, you were talking about the COVID. Do you have a census for both observation and ICU at Lake County hospitals?
I have some, and I will be happy to discuss with you offline because
fine.
I've been.
That's great. Okay. Other than that, that would be it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Vest, just so you know, I think what you're going to find is 95% of the budget for 2021 is going to look an awful lot like the current one. So I'm trying to keep it simple for you.
That's well, I like that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Mr. Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, Chief, I want to thank you and the guys, outstanding job you did. I believe I called and talked to you the other day, got a lot of response from the community in behalf of the safety forces and even our road department. The guys have done an outstanding job with that storm. And also with the COVID, you guys been running pretty heavy because I got the call out when you guys go out. I have on my phone when you guys go out, and you guys been running a lot of jobs, but if you would pass it on, thank you for what you do. And sometimes I know people think that's part of your job, but once in a while, you guys go beyond and you need an attaboy. And I think everyone deserves that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that on. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question, if I could, for the chief.
Mr.
Chief,
Gautner?
looking at the budget, and I'm 99% sure I know the answer. I just want to verify with you. I saw that we don't really have anything budgeted for the proposed renovation work at Station 2, and I realize we don't even know what that number is going to be right now. So I assume we'll somewhere in the 2021 we'll appropriate additional funds in a line item to cover that. Is that the game plan?
So my understanding of how we've been doing the budget previously is that the board, the line items that we have placed in as capital, if I remember correctly, in the last several years, the board has not appropriated that money into capital. It's been left unappropriated. Is that correct, Joanne?
Correct. And then when we need it, we do the reappropriations on it. Yes.
So you'll see that there is some monies every year that goes in for buildings. How much is there? I can't tell you exactly because we didn't necessarily capitalize it, but that's part of. So when we talk about, and Joanne gives us the number that, we have $4 million, I think one of the things that I know, at least that I've passed on to the staff here, is that sounds like there's plenty of money there, but there may be 600,000 of that has really been earmarked for vehicles, or 200 for buildings or whatever. So yes, we're going to need to do some reappropriation when we know what that dollar amount is from unappropriated money, I'm guessing.
Okay, thank you. That answered the question.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Go ahead.
Chief, I want you to definitely make sure that we have our options for financing on that also. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else for Chief? Okay. Did we get anything else in for public?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Closing board comments. Anything from the board?
Mr. Chairman, one quick comment, if I could.
Yep, Mr. Gautner.
This came up yesterday in the Lake County Mayors and Managers teleconference, and I didn't realize it. I was mentioning it to Mr. Vest this morning. December 1st is when the legislature passed that emergency legislation back in March, which allows us to do this kind of meeting by Zoom or teleconference. They only extended that till December 1st. So far, the state legislature has not, they still got time, but they have not yet taken action to extend it past December 1st. So we'll just have to kind of put that in the rearview mirror, because if they don't, next month we're meeting face to face.
Ken, wasn't there somebody in the meeting that said they sent a letter to them? You and I talked about it, remember? Somebody from, I'm not sure which city it was or town.
Yeah, Commissioner Hamercheck talked about it, but the state legislature, they're in a lame duck session. They have to take action to do it officially. Right. As of now, they haven't.
Right, I understand, but I thought somebody from one of them sent a letter to them or something.
Yeah, no, this was just more of an FYI to everybody, because it affects us all, both at the township level and the village level, as well as the fire district.
Oh, it sure will. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Mrs. Dame, on that note there, I mean, obviously the plan is to go virtually probably for the foreseeable future. What do we do with that?
Well, I mean, at this point, I think we have to let that allow for the contingencies. Our intention is to meet virtually, and I think that's in compliance with the directives that are being given right now by the governor and, by the health department. But if that changes and we're not allowed to do that in order to comply with the Open Meetings Act, then we're going to have to, meet in person and figure that out. But I'm hopeful that they will do something to correct that issue, because it's not just us who is going to have an issue with it.
I think that's everybody.
And we got time. We can also down the road put it in the newspaper or put it on our webpage too. I mean, sometime in December. Our meeting isn't until the 16th, right. So we got 24 hours before. So
yeah, I just kind of want to put that up on everybody's radar that's coming up faster than we can think of. But I think that probably will, because as Stacy said, we're not the only ones affected by this. This is a statewide problem.
Right.
Okay. Any other board comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to just wish everybody a happy and healthy Thanksgiving season, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wayman.
I
Anyone?
also want to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Yep, I want to also, off of back of Mr. Wayman, same thing. Appreciate working with everybody. Everybody's doing a great job. I want to thank everybody and be safe and your families and enjoy.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Everybody stay safe.
And that comes from the lighted tree.
Right.
Hey, I would just like to say, I know, Chief, I hear it firsthand. You know, we're working in Painesville this week. In 2 days, I already have 20 hours overtime. So I'm well aware of what you guys are going through. It's interesting when I talk to my dispatch and they're saying, hey, just so you know, Madison's getting slammed right now. I've gotten that a lot lately, especially over the last couple weeks. I see it personally, you know, when I'm here, and I see it when I'm at work. So definitely, I know you guys are short staffed just like we are and everybody else. You guys are doing a great job, you know, and definitely like Mr. Wayman, Anderson, everybody else had said, you know, you guys are doing a great job, but, you know, be safe. You know, you guys got to take care of yourselves first, just like we try to do. But I definitely, everybody have a nice holiday and everybody stay safe. So next meeting is planned for December 16th at 7 p.m. Thank you. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
You have that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Second answer. Roll call.
Mr. Waitman,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gontner,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Time.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
7:52 p.m.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving.